Hello, everybody. This is Maho Shonen, our Magic the Gathering podcast. I'm Victor.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Mitchell.
And together, you're listening our podcast. So, last episode, we talked about what's Magic, what's Commander, why you should play, and how to get started. But today, we're going to go further in depth of how to fully construct a deck. So, the first things first is that the Command Zone, another very popular podcast, has revolutionized and kind of created this template of how to build a Commander deck. And if you guys don't know, you can go ahead and look up the Command Zone and go ahead and watch their podcast about deck building. It's a great listen. But what they mention is that a typical deck would want to run about 10 pieces of mana ramp, whether that be things that get you lands or artifacts, about 10 pieces of card draw or card advantage, so things that let you draw massive amounts of cards or help you get cards back from your graveyard and help you not run out of gas, 5 single target removal pieces, and 5 board wipes. Now, if you think about it, with all those cards tallied up, that's about 30 cards in your deck. About one third of your deck is going to be made up of these cards, and then if you take into fact that a normal, casual EDH deck has about 36 or 38 lands, that's another third. So realistically speaking, you only have one third left of your deck to play. So that's kind of weird, isn't it, if you think about it? So, I want to hear you guys' opinions about, do you think this is optimal? Is this what you should be doing?
I honestly think you can build your deck however you kind of really want to, in a sense. There are the templates and everything like that, and I think a lot of the templates are really good to go by. But I also think, you're the one who's piloting that deck, so you're also the one who's going to really know how it's going to run. So if you go by all the templates, put exactly what they say, sometimes it doesn't work out for you, and sometimes you just gotta figure it out for yourself.
For me, I guess running on that, I don't know. I'm just thinking about mana ramp, and it's kind of hard to do that in some decks because it's if you're not playing green, then you're kind of screwed. You don't really you have to look at other options to ramp. So I was thinking, I think for non-green decks, you need cards that that can search for lands, I guess, or either that or other alternative ways to ramp, Wayfarer's Bauble, or I don't know, Smothering Tides. That's technically kind of ramp.
Well, Smothering Tide is 4 mana, though, so I totally understand where you're going with that, but do you think rocks are just not viable? Or is it bad to play too many rocks?
No. I think it's fine to play rocks, but when I'm thinking about ramp, I guess in a way, rocks are ramp, but they're just they're not impactful as value ramp Kodama's Reach or Cultivate, or Explosive Vegetation, or I guess now it's Circuitous Root. And Circuitous Root is 4 mana. Well, Smothering Tides is 4 mana, but Smothering Tides can net you more mana. In a way. I don't know. I'm just, what I'm thinking is for mana ramp, you gotta look at, other alternative cards, other than, Rampant Growth, or the Kodama's Reaches,
Well, you do have a pretty valid point, but here's the thing, though, is that, the cards you mentioned they're just special cases because they not only do they ramp, but they kind of provide you an extra land drop, right? In a sense.
Yeah.
Or for the example of the Explosive Vegetation, Circuitous Route, Sky Shroud Claims, those cards grab 2 lands, so you're 1 for 2ing, almost.
Then, I mean, you're technically paying 4 mana to get 2 lands.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 2 Rampant Growths stapled together. But then Kodama's Reach is special because It's 3 mana. Yeah, it's 1 mana west, and you still get 2 lands, although the other land is in your hand.
You can technically think that's card draw as well.
In a sense, it kind of is. But sometimes card draw, you do want to hit gas, though.
Yeah.
That's true. So, do you think this template is actually set in stone? Like, what kind of exceptions would you guys make? Because, like you said, it is hard to hit 10 pieces of ramp, 10 pieces of card draw in certain colors.
I think, just like anything, like going along with my first answer, is it's really up to the player, and it's really up to depending on what you want to use. So if you want to use Explosive Vegetation, you want to use Kodama's Reach, you want to use a Sky Shroud Claim as your mana ramp, then you're more than welcome to do that. And there's plenty of other ramp spells out there that a lot of players don't use because a lot of them go with the staples. And then there's plenty of rocks a lot of players go with. And in rocks, we're talking about like Signets and Soul Ring and all that type of stuff. A lot of players, they go with the staples, and then there's always ones you don't know about. And then they just came out with new talismans, new cycle of talismans from Modern Horizons. But we also had the previous cycle of talismans from previous expansions and sets. So there's always a lot of different cards you can be using, and I really think it's up to the player on what they want to put together in their deck. Like, I'm building a deck right now full of snowlands, and the ramp spells I'm going to be using, like Into the North, grab snowlands. So not only can you grab a basic snowland, it can also grab one of the dual snowlands. Even though it still comes in tapped, it's still a little good. It's still pretty good for what I'm trying to build.
And I guess the importance of mana ramp, answering the question. I guess mana ramp is important in decks, but the amount of mana ramp, I think it depends. I don't think 10 is like.
It's not set in stone.
I don't think 10 should be set in stone. I think it should. I usually put like 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 mana mana. Actually, I actually might put more. Depend if it's a green deck. Like, I think I put maybe 6 to 8 rocks, and then I have like three ramp spells. But then in a non-green deck, I might play like 9, maybe 10. But I think I also have other ways to get lands out, so I might be playing more than 10. I don't know. I haven't really examined my decks that deep. But
I also think it's the colors you use.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going 5 colors and you want to be jink about it, you don't want to run 10 fetches. You don't want to run 10 shocks. You don't want to run, Ancient Tomb and all these other really high-end cards. You just want to run jank. If you want to do a Gates 5-color mana build, it's really what am I really building, and what type of ramp do I want? I think is the true answer to it, and I think it's all up to the player. If a player wants to put in 10 ramp spells, and then when they start playing that deck and they start to realize, I think 10 ramp spells is a little bit too much. Because sometimes, what if you keep running, you draw into ramp spells, but you run out of basic lands for those ramps?
Yeah.
It's really, if you're building 5 colors and you're running 10 fetches, 10 shocks, there's no really point in running 3 or 4, or even just 3 of the ramp spells that get you basics.
But most beginner players wouldn't play 5 colors.
No, but then again, it's also the trap. A lot of newer players thinking, I need all of these fetches, I need all of these shocks for my 5-color deck to be good.
Even 2 or 3 colors, I don't know, they think that because it's in the deck list, net decking, then it's I need to get it, but you don't really need to get it.
That's super true, though, because a lot of people do feel that they want to be as optimal as possible. So they look up deck lists online and they see all these expensive cards and they feel pressured that, to play my deck well, I'm going to need these fetches and these staples, these shocklands and whatnot. So I guess you can kind of say that ramp, having 10 is nice because consistency purposes. But like you said, sometimes depends on the goal of the deck, right? Where do you really need that many, ramp spells? But what about card draw spells, guys? Like, what do you think about that? Like having 10 card draw spells? Because personally, having more card draw helps you not feel so bad when you want to dig for an answer and just not gas out to the mid to late game stages of the game.
I think there are some card draw spells that are good. A lot of the good ones are in blue. But we just got the new one from last year's Commander product, Endless Atlas. And even though you have to have, I think it's three lands with the same name on it, to get its ability.
I think it's two. It's either 2 or 3. Is it 2?
It's like I think
it might be 3.
I think it's 3.
Dang.
It's still you leave it on the field. It allows you to draw whenever you need that draw. And there's actually other lands out there. I use a couple of my Boros deck that allow me to, especially if I have no cards in hand, draw a card. And I think colors like Boros, white, red,
basically any deck without blue or black.
Yeah, colors that just don't have that draw effect. You need to think outside the box and look at cards that will get you a draw.
Yeah, there's some like some examples of red is like, what is it? Not instant draw, but
you mean that like kind of like exiling effect?
Yeah, that exiling
where it's like
effect.
pseudo draw, right? Temporary.
Yeah,
having it.
Yeah, there's those types of cards that you can consider for like card draw. For like, I think card draw is important because, my personal opinion, I think card draw is more powerful than tutoring in some cases. It depends on the tutor that you play. Like, I mean, I guess if it's like demonic tutor or something like that, then I guess you can't beat that because it's still like 2 mana for 1 card. That's still like a lot of card draw spells.
Well, because you're probably right in the sense where you're playing more expensive tutors such as Diabolic Tutor, which is 4 mana, or what's the 5 mana one? There's a couple of them.
Diabolic Intent?
I think so. Or there's also
there's Diabolic Revelation.
Well, Diabolic Revelation is 5 and X, right? So it's even more expensive.
Okay,
that's a search. Yeah. That's a search spell.
Exactly. So because the thing is, like, if you're playing spells like those are pretty pricey just to get your silver bullets in a deck that you need. So it's debatable where, like, yeah, you're probably right where card draw, when you can get cheaper card draw, such as Harmonize or Concentrate, which is 4 mana to draw 3.
Yeah.
Whereas more card efficient, but you don't get that exact quality of card that you might need in a dire situation.
Yeah.
So I guess it really is up to the players to decide how they want to build a deck because, again, this is only a template. It's not set in stone. The Command Zone did say themselves that it's a good rule of thumb to follow for a good, consistent deck that plays well every game as possible. But of course, RNG is RNG, and you might get mana screwed. You might get mana flooded and gas out in the late game and not draw your answers that you need. But bring up answers, though. How many single targets and board wipes do you guys personally run? Because 5 and 5, I feel is actually reasonable, but also sometimes I feel that it's not enough.
I don't know. I'm a little biased about that. I actually built a board wipe deck once. My play group didn't really like it.
Who put you on the planet?
It wasn't that fun to play with, to be honest. I just built it because, sometimes you get into that deck brewing mode and you just build stuff just to build. And
it was a good idea.
It was a good idea.
Queen Marchesa.
Yeah, I used Queen Marchesa, Mardu. But I think with board wipes, you really got to look at which ones you want to play because there are so many board wipes. A lot of them are in white. So the really good one, like the ones that are plentiful, your colors got to be in white to get those. You got the black board wipe Damnation and Toxic Deluge.
Yeah, but Damnation's like How much money? Are you gonna
Damnation and Toxic Deluge are more expensive. You got Pseudo Board Wipe in blue with Cyclonic Rift. Doesn't really destroy everything. It just sends all your opponent's stuff back to their hands if you overload it.
But then you can counter it.
You can.
You can counter the more important things when they try to cast it.
And that's true. And I think that's what makes it special for blue is because it's like, okay, now I can just counter that stuff when I got those counter spells. Green, I'm not too sure.
Green's board wipes are very something special. Great Aurora, Missouri's Predation, Hurricane. Like those are the types of board wipes that Green has. So it's tough for Green.
And then you got red. You got like stuff like Hour of Devastation.
The Chain Reaction.
You got Star of Extinction, which came out in Ixalan block,
Can't
which
forget-
hits planeswalkers and creatures.
And you can't forget about Blast Act.
And Blasphemous Act, which I think is one of the more popular red board wipes. It's honestly, if you're playing red, it's one of those staples I think you should have. Depending on your play style, but I think it's always good to run a couple board wipes. Even some planeswalkers have board wipe abilities, such as Elspeth with their -3. It destroys creatures with power 4 or greater, but it's a board wipe on a stick. So I honestly think maybe like three or four board wipes, depending on your play style. And then single target removal. There's a lot more single target removal that exiles non-land permanents nowadays than just destroys target creature, destroys planeswalker, enchantment, artifact. And I think with today's meta, with people just playing all sorts of things nowadays, I think the ones that get rid of non-land permanents are some of the better ones.
Yeah, gives you for more versatility, I think.
That's true. I do agree. But again, though, not every color is made equally. So you have to use your color strengths and have, certain color combinations to make up for another color's weakness. But
or if you play like monocolors, then you have to find other cards that can like, if you're playing black, you can't really interact with enchantments or artifacts.
That's very true. So then you might end up playing colorless sources such as
Scour from Existence.
Exactly. Or
Universal Solvent.
They're not the most powerful. There's also Unstable Obelisk as well.
And Spine of Isha.
That's true. But again, you do what you can in the best of your colors. So do you actually guys consider artifact and enchantment removal as single target removal? And how important is it? Because I feel that some people just don't run enough, and some people run too much where people end up complaining about their mana rocks and their powerful enchantments being destroyed constantly. Where's that fine line?
Well, I actually think that if people are complaining about like their artifacts being blown up by like someone has a lot of removal, well, if they have a lot of removal for that, then just play more creatures, because then it's just, well, now they're going to have dead cards in their hand, so then you just punish the player for playing like artifact and enchantment removal, right?
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I don't think it's anyone can play however they want to play, and if they feel that they need to pack a lot of artifact and enchantment hate for a certain meta, then you can't blame the person, because they need to do that to keep up.
Yeah.
And so this is where you get that ebb and flow, the tug of war of evolving metas where, okay, this guy's playing Duretti. I need to play a lot of artifact hate because, that's his main deck, and it so happens that my other two opponents also happen to play a lot of artifacts too. And then all of a sudden, if they notice that, then they'll probably swap it up and play a different commander, and then, you get that awesome evolution of your play groups and meta evolving. But for the most part, I find it ridiculous how people complain about interaction, because interaction is part of the game,
Mm-hmm.
And so what Wizards intended is where you have to read your opponent, see when it's safe to play something, and how to counteract it or push through, certain combos and synergies, or just aggressive creatures.
Yeah, we all don't want to be playing Solitaire. I think that's why we're all playing Magic.
Exactly. If we wanted to play a Solitaire, we could just Goldfish and just pretend to combo off with your awesomely built deck. which is unrealistic because
got any aces?
I think a lot of people, when they're playtesting, they're not playtesting other decks they have. And in my case, when I playtest a new deck I built, I playtest it against another deck. And sometimes another deck that's probably a little more high tier in the power scale. And to be honest, when I play against myself, it's like I want both decks to win. So it's like I'm playing the best I can to make sure both can win. And sometimes, you know, you realize, you know what, my deck, you know, doesn't have the right things to go out into the world yet. It's missing, maybe it's missing single target removal, maybe it's missing ramp, draw.
Like your Kalia deck from the other day.
You know, yeah, we had a game of Commander just the other day, and although I do have single target removal in that deck, I didn't draw into it. And I think that sometimes a lot of people fall into that category when they're playtesting their decks. They kind of just, they look at, they're like, they put their cards together and like, oh, this is the combo I just need to get to win. But they're not accounting the other variables of other players, you know, stopping them from doing that.
So players should be more mindful about the potential things that could happen and always have an answer ready, right?
Yeah. Or maybe not have all the answers ready, but like have an answer in the deck.
Well, it's hard to have all the answers because no deck is perfect, and you know,
unless you're playing
you're tight on space, realistically speaking. But you want to have enough that you feel like you can cover your back.
Yeah.
And so, what are some of these decks that you guys made that are, you know, exceptions to this template? Because, you know, like I said before, a normal typical deck runs 10, 10, 5, 5, and about 36 to 38 lands. But I can say that my 5-color Horror Notions deck plays 40 lands and doesn't run that many single target and board wipes because they're packed into my creatures. And, you know, I have a specific strategy in mind. What are some other strategies that you guys build around that kind of differentiates away from the standard?
Well, I got like my Nakia deck, which I use in Scroll, and she basically makes it so you can't play non-creature spells, but she doubles your mana. The problem is, you know, you put her out there, you want to be able to use that mana that's being doubled. So if you're playing a deck full of sorceries, instants, artifacts, enchantments, your deck can die pretty fast, because once you play that commander, unless you have a way to get rid of your own commander, you know, and you're not drawing into creatures, you kind of stall. So I built it in a way where I have, I think, close to like 35 to 40 creatures, and then I'm running a few enchantments, a few artifacts, and only one sorcery. And that sorcery is my win con for the deck. It allows me to just spit out my whole deck afterwards, and after when I'm done with that. And I think that's really how you gotta build your deck. If you're playing with the commander, like Narset, the Enlightened, you're not gonna play a lot of creatures. You want to play a lot of non-creature spells because that's what she's all about. If you're playing a deck like Mael, you want to play big creatures to really get the full value out of her ability, because you're dropping creatures with power 5 or greater. So if you play little weenies in that deck, you know, you're not going to get the full power. So I think you really have to figure out exactly how many cards you want to play of each. If you're playing a creature intensive deck, you want to put a lot of creatures. If you're playing a Spellslinger deck, you know, you're going to put a lot, like, non-creature spells, mostly sorceries and instances, especially if you're playing, you know, something like Kess or
Mizzix, right?
Niv Mizzix. You know, you want to play a lot of those non-creature spells because that's what your deck is all about.
So what are some of your examples? You know, you said Nakia. Do you have any other examples of, like, weird commanders that kind of break the mold?
I've got my Lord Windgrace deck. I'm running like 40 lands in that deck, and that's because Lord Windgrace is all about lands matters, and I think that's probably one of the decks that changed the mold. You know, if you're playing that type of deck, you know, it's all about lands. You're going to play a lot of lands. It's just like pretty much any commander. A lot of commanders are build-arounds. So...
yeah, I guess. But you could also play commanders that aren't build-arounds, which I kind of prefer. I don't know.
You play that Chromat.
Oh, yeah, you could play Crovat, yeah. I don't know, for me, my land base is kind of skewed. I don't like running 36 to 38 lands. For me personally, I feel like that's a bit too much. So I have some decks that like, well, it depends on the deck. If it's like a blue-black deck, I think, yeah, you do need 36, or if it's a control, if you have like blue in it, then you probably should have like 36 to 38. But I have some decks, like I have an Amara deck that I think it has like 33 lands in it, but there's like 5 or 6 cards in the deck that can land cycle for it, or basically just draw it if I need it, like Elheim Sanctuary or something like that. I don't know, I'm testing that out. There's cards like I forgot the one card that exiles 2 enchantment or artifacts.
It's the Sylvan Offering, right?
Sylvan Offering, yeah.
The 5-minute one where it's like you have the option to pitch it away for land cycling.
Yeah, or it's like planes are for. I think it's basic land cycling. Yeah,
it's one or the other, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because I wanted to ask you guys about, you know, competitive EDH is very different because they can get away with playing 30 to 33 lands because their mana curve is extremely low, and on top of that, they're also combined the fact that if they're playing green, they're going to be playing mana dorks, and if they're not playing green, they'll be sure to supply themselves with fast mana such as Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, and even Signets and other, you know, sources of fast mana. So this is where I want to ask you guys, how important is it to establish a mana curve in your deck building? Because, you know, before the metagame was very different where people were more casual. They occasionally play a ramp spell or two, but they don't really get off until
Battle Cruiser Magic.
Yeah, definitely. They don't even get off until like, you know, turn 5 or turn 6 where they start playing their big spells that are 5 to 6 mana plus. But nowadays, people are trying to be more proactive and actually have a legitimate mana curve and ramp early to get to their bigger spells. But even then, most people don't really shove their decks with that many big spells unless the strategy calls for it. So we got this weird meta going where mana curve seems to be super duper important in Commander. And how important do you guys think it is to have a good curve?
I think if you're building Yidris, where you're cascading with stuff, you want to put out your deck when you're building it. Put all your 1 CMCs, your 2 CMCs, 3 CMCs, you know, so forth and so on. Because with Yidris, whenever it attacks, deals damage, spells you play gain Cascade. So if you're playing a lot of big spells and all you got are little, you know, small CMC spells in your hand, you know, you're not going to be able to get that cascade effect going on because most of your deck is bigger CMC spells. What you want is more of a kind of a mix of both, like a few 5 drops and above, maybe like 2 or 3 of each of those, maybe not even like 2 or 3 of like 8 or 9 drops, maybe like 1 at most. And you want to play a lot of like 3, 2, 1s, 4s, like a mix, but have it like balanced, you know, perfectly balanced, just as all things should be.
Perfectly balanced as all things should be, yo.
Thank you, Thanos.
Okay, but see, here's the thing though, is that like, again, you mentioned specifically Yidris, but I'm talking about in general having a mana curve for any commander. Because, you know, Yidris, a special case where cascading, you want to design your deck where you can take advantage of cascading into specific cards in certain converted mana costs. But what about just in general? How important is it to have a 1-drop, a 2-drop, a 3-drop, a 4-drop, and curving out and playing smoothly? Because if you compare it to something like Limited, oh, absolutely, you want a curve. Standard, you want a curve as well, especially if you're playing aggro, and even other more competitive formats such as Modern and Legacy as well. But Commander being a casual format, how important is it?
I think it's kind of important. I don't know. I think playing like Battlecruiser Magic. I mean, I guess it depends on the play group. I guess, because I don't want to tell people that like, no, you can't. You need to have a curve. I think a curve is important because it can create more interesting gameplay, and then it's like you're not. I guess it's like the fact that like whoever uses the most mana in the game will most likely win. So if you're like turn 1, you don't have a play. Usually most people don't have a play turn 1. Turn 2, that's when you usually like play like your mana rock. But if you don't play your mana rock and someone else plays it, then it's like they're using their mana to the best of the ability. So I think like having a curve is important because of that. If you're able to use all the mana that you can, so then it's not like turn 4 you play your 2-drop when you have like 4 lands, and then it's like when you could be playing like a more powerful spell for 4 mana, or maybe like two powerful spell. I don't know. I think playing on a curve is important because of that.
I totally agree, because you want to be proactive and actually play Magic and not just play land go.
Yeah.
And here's my question though, is that some people think that having a curve and being proactive can be seen as powerful. And I find it kind of interesting, because is it really? Because you're just playing traditional Magic as how it's meant to be played, where you play a land and if you have a spell of a certain mana cost, you play that spell. Well, assuming that it's not like a counter spell or something that's not quite fitting for the situation. But you get my drift, right?
Yeah.
Where a curve is important because you want interaction early and you want to play consistently. But what's up with what do you guys think about people saying that it's too powerful and like it's like not fun if people play efficiently?
I think there's a difference between playing efficiently and sequencing correctly. Because if you're playing efficiently, you're playing the deck the way you built it. Whereas sequencing is sometimes you get cards in your hand and you look at your field and you're like, all right, if I play this card first, tap it for its mana, say it's a rock, that gives me extra mana, so I can play this next card that allows me to do this thing with the card that's already in the field. And it just, you don't really make a combo, but the sequence of cards you play make your deck more efficient. Whereas if you build your deck in a certain way to be efficient, sometimes you have to play your deck that way, and sometimes sequencing just pops up on the fly while you're playing the deck. Just random cards come together and you just play and you're like, wow, I didn't realize those cards together can do this.
We're talking about being efficient, right?
Yeah, it's efficient. Like, is it bad to be efficient? Because a lot of people have been complaining about, if you're being efficient, your power level is too high, and it defeats the heart of the game, which is being a casual format.
See, I honestly feel like you can be casual and be efficient. Like,
yeah, right. I don't know.
You could play like, I don't know. You could just play your Wayfarer's Bauble, like, and then play your freaking, I don't know, Mana Dork or something like that. Turn 2, or I don't really understand how. Is it because like, give me a scenario.
Well, I've just seen a couple of different pickup groups. There's no wrong way to play Magic however you want. I just feel that it's ridiculous how some people try to push their standards on top of another player, right? Where it's like, oh, why are you playing a Birds of Paradise in a Commander format?
Are we not doing that? Just kidding.
No, but
is it more like you play your land, drop a Soul Ring turns into a Signet or anything like that? Because sometimes that's all RNG.
That's
you
the luck
draw
of the
those
draw.
cards. It's like in Yu-Gi-Oh! And you draw the 5 pieces of Exodia on your first draw. That's honestly, it's pretty hard to pull off, and it doesn't happen all the time.
yeah, right. It doesn't happen all the time, but I've seen some people where they choose not to play any sort of 1 mana, 2 mana besides Soul Ring, ramp spells or any sort of thing like that, and they only rely on the 3 mana ramp spells because they say that it's inefficient or it's too efficient to curve out that early. I don't know. There's some weird people out there who think that the game is meant to be more casual, and I don't think it's like more casual doesn't necessarily mean less powerful, right?
No.
No, I play a Geshath deck. That guy is 8 mana to bring out.
Yeah, and you want to get him as soon as possible so you can start doing fun things, right?
Yeah, because like
play
if you're-
dinosaurs.
If you're playing, if dinosaurs are, a lot of them are big CMC, creatures, and if you want to play Geshath and get his ability out, because with him, once late game hits and you don't have him out, it's really hard. You want to get him out as fast as possible, so you just build your board up with as many dinosaurs as possible, so you can just smack face. It almost becomes battle cruiser magic at that point, but early game, you want to be able to ramp hard enough. Sometimes I could get Geshath out turn 4 or 5 if I ramp hard enough early on. If you're just going land every turn, you're not really playing much. By the time turn 8 pops out for me, I'd be like, alright guys, I'm playing Geshath. You guys, board will be full of, all sorts of, shenanigans. And you guys, well, I counter your Geshath. And I'm like, well, I guess I just, time walked myself.
I guess I cry.
I cry. And the crying goes on the stack, and then somebody counters that.
Well, so I guess since now we're talking about power scaling when deck constructing, is that the command zone also talked about, creating a power scale, right? Because nothing feels worse than playing against players who are kind of out of your league. And they kind of help break it down visually. Like a 1-2 is considered as jank, where it's just a bunch of random cards that don't necessarily have a coherent strategy. They may have a theme of some kind, but they're not necessarily very strong.
Oh, so like Hat Tribal.
You said hat tribal?
Hat. I'm sorry. Hat.
Like, wait, I guess hat tribal is a thing.
Yeah.
Or chair tribal.
Or Chair Tribal.
I've heard about chair tribal, but I don't know if it's good or not. But
yeah, you pick a Loro as your commander or something like that,
and then all your creatures or all the card images have a chair in it of some
Or
kind.
sitting in a chair, yeah, who knows?
Nice.
I like it. So yeah, that's like jank, right? 1-2.
Okay.
A 3-4, according to the command zone, is casual, where the deck has a little bit more synergy, but it's not quite fine-tuned enough. Then we hit the next stage, which is 5-6. 5-6 is considered focused. You have a solid game plan, how to play the deck, and you have a strategy, that you want to execute to win the game.
And not like really the most like best of cards, I guess.
Yeah, not necessarily. You just have a game plan and you make do with what you got. The next tier up is 7-8, which is optimized, and that's where you take that focused game plan from the last tier and you switch it out for more efficient cards to help you succeed and achieve your goals faster or just make it more impactful.
Play like Brainstorm instead of like Radical Idea.
Yeah, something like that. Like that could be considered optimization, but there's also things such as like, getting yourself a mana crypt because you want faster mana, and mana crypt is just efficient, just like Soul Ring.
And I think when you get to 7 to 8 tier, that's when your deck starts moving closer to CEDH levels, because now it's like you're not going to be playing that deck versus people with janky chair tribal decks. You're going to be playing that deck when somebody decides to pop out their Urza deck, or somebody wants to pop out their
Are we talking about Teferi?
I don't know.
Teferi.
No, Lazav.
Or somebody decides to pop out some deck that's closer to the competitive.
We're talking
levels.
about okay.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like here Optimize's got like that switch from 7 to 8 is really really hard because there's some really good powerful spells and cards that you want to play, but they're pretty damn expensive.
See, I feel like your example of Mana Crypt, like upgrading to 7 and 8, I feel like upgrades like Mana Crypt make it like a 9 or a 10. I think upgrades to like a 7 or 8 are like you play, instead of Toldama's Reach, you play Rampant Growth, or because it's like you're reducing that like 3 mana cost into a 2 mana ramp spell, which is arguably like whoever's, I don't know, arguably 2 manas is better than 3,
Yeah, but then here's the thing though, is like you're paying, like you said before, like you like things like Kodamas Reach and Cultivate because that extra 1 mana gets you that extra land and it's considered card draw in your opinion.
It is, but in some other cases, like for like CEDH levels, like they don't. I don't think they play like Kodamas Reach. They play more like Rampant Growth or like
they're playing faster spells. Like people talk about spells like Expropriate, like that's a super. That's a really good card. But, you watch channels like Playing with Power, give you guys a shout out. I have never seen anyone play that spell.
Maybe it's just never gotten out.
Maybe it is in their deck, but if it isn't, it's probably because it's a really big, costing spell.
Well, because, back to what you're saying though, because, in my opinion, like when you hit the competitive levels of 9 to 10, the metagame is just extremely different because everyone's going to be trying to combo off turn 2 to turn 3, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you have to force yourself to pack a ton of interaction, lower down your curve to keep pace with other combo players. And so that's why you see a lot of people are still playing Mana Crypt in, like, a Geshath deck. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily competitive. It's because they really want that mana for, like, to play their big fatty.
No, yeah, I just meant, like, a lot of upgrades, like Mana Crypt or something like that, will end up resulting into, like, a 9 or a 10.
It could be, but at the same time, it's one of those things where, like, if you take a fully optimized Geshath deck that plays a lot of, like, tutors like Enlightened Tutor and Worldly Tutor and Mana Crypt and stuff like that, I don't think it's going to compare well versus a fully optimized Urza deck. Because Urza is just inherently more powerful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, because I'm just wondering, because it's like, how do you guys, like, draw that borderline between 7 to 8 and then, like, the 8 into, like, 9/10?
It's really hard to describe when your deck gets to 9 and 10, when it, like, kind of crosses over. Because, in our play group, none of us really have built decks that are...
we kind of have built...
Well, none of us have built 9 or 10 decks, so we don't know what a 9 or 10 deck is. We can watch it online, but, for us, our play style is a little bit more casual, focused, optimized. We have one player in our group. His deck, if we let it go off, we deserve to lose because his deck is really, can get that far. But I think it really depends on your play group and depends on how you're playing the deck. If you're playing Timna the Weaver with Thrasios, that is considered a competitive commander.
But how you build it.
But how you build it, too.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're building it with, you're putting ad nauseum in there and you're putting all these different counter spells, you're putting spells that get you to your end game, be it Isochron Scepter with Dramatic Reversal and a bunch of other different things, putting an Urza in there and draw your whole deck.
Okay. Living the dream.
Living the dream,
Well, if you have infinite mana, then technically you can do Urza's ability, right? And you do live the dream technically.
Magical Christmas Land. But I think that's when it starts to move over. It's like and I think other YouTube channels have talked about it. It's when you start playing specific commanders is when okay, that you're going for a competitive route. Like, I have a Kess deck. Kess is more for competitive playstyle. You can go really casual with it, but I decided, you know what, I want to build a competitive deck, like something that's not super jank, because what if I go up against somebody and I don't have that?
I don't know, because it's like... I am lost on what the question was, but I'm going to go off on what
I wanted to ask you guys, like, how do you guys divide up the tiers? Like, where do you draw the line between the jump from 7 to 8?
Okay.
And then 8 to 9/10? Because, in my opinion, optimization is just you just playing with the best possible cards to be as efficient as possible. And there's different levels of optimization because, Mana Crypt is a very efficient card. It's 0 mana that nets you 2 mana.
Yeah.
But it's a $200 card. Not everyone's going to afford that, you know what I mean? So you have to make do with what's the next best thing. Soul Ring. It's $5-ish,
It's $5 now?
Roughly, yeah. Can you believe it? Soul Ring has become an absolute staple. This format is insane.
Wow.
Luckily, it's printed in every commander deck.
Yeah, so, guys, if the precons are coming up and you need a Soul Ring, buy a precon.
Well, there you
Buy
go.
lots of precons. There are precons that are super cheap. Not to digress, but there are precon decks that you can buy for cheap.
Yeah, but back to what I was saying, though. Optimization, in my opinion, just means that you're playing with stronger cards that are more efficient, that helps aid your game plan. And there's different levels of optimization because not everyone has the budget to afford things like Mana Crypt or Demonic Tutor, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then the moment that you do play it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's competitive level, because competitive level, I think, where you draw the line is that it's just a different metagame, because people are trying to go off as early as turn 2, turn 3, and you had to switch your entire game plan to slow them down, pack tons of interaction to slow them down, or race them with your own crazy infinite combo.
Yeah, I think I agree with that statement for like 9 and 10s for like competitive levels.
But what about the 7 to 8 part where
7 to 8 is like value? Would that be like it's like the best value that you can achieve? Like,
nah, I think value would be more 5, 6.
I don't know, man.
Focus, because when you think of value, you're thinking more. That's casual terms. When you're going to optimize, that's when you're starting to
be efficient,
be more efficient. So you're not going for value. You're going for going for speed.
You can still have efficient value, though.
Yeah, you could do both, right?
Yeah,
you could do both.
You can still do both.
But I think
this is where it's super interesting, because there's no wrong answer here, right, guys? Because
I don't think there is.
Yeah, people just hate on like other players, and it's like, chill. You can play Commander however you want.
Yeah,
I think when players think of value, though, they're thinking, oh, value, like that's casual. And yeah, no doubt, like you can go optimize with value.
I think value can depending on going on like the statement of like whatever commander it is. I think value can like be astronomically like competitive levels, or like it can go into like, I don't know, like Coiling Oracle, just 2-drop 1/1, reveal the top card. If it's a land, put it on the battlefield. If not, draw a card. I think that's I think that's competitive value.
It definitely can be, because it's like value could be also efficiency, because you net yourself positive cards, more card advantage, you're eking ahead of your opponent. It just depends on what kind of like strategy you're building, what kind of deck you're constructing, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say value is like 9 or 10. Like that's why I feel like value would reach up to the 7 or 8, depending on like the commander. Like,
but wouldn't you also argue that 9 and 10 they're also playing valuable cards because they're
they're playing valuable cards within that tier, though? They're dropping mana drains and all of that.
It's a pun. Value.
Yes, value. But here's the thing, though. I don't mean like monetary value. I mean like there are powerful cards that net you value in the sense that they're efficient and they net you positive cards, or they tutor for such an impactful card that it helps you seal the deal and win the game. Things like that. And so it's really hard to draw this blur, right, guys?
I think on like our sense of value, because the way we play our decks and build our decks is different from like competitive sense of value. Like they value different. Their criteria on what they consider to be value is a different criteria from our own. And I think that's kind of what differentiates 7 to 8 to 9 and 10, is that differentiation of their value scale, what they consider to be a competitive card. Because Coiling Oracle, I play in a lot of my Simic decks.
I'm sure
I consider it to be value. But maybe once you go into that 9 to 10, you go, you know what?
You don't necessarily need it.
I could play something different. Maybe it's not the card I need for this game plan. Because when you get to 9 to 10, it's like playing Magic on crack. You're just going at it. It's
a Singleton legacy, guys.
Yeah, that's honestly what it gets to, and our sense of value is far different from competitive sense of value.
I got nothing. I'm not gonna say anything more. I got nothing.
Well, it's one of those funny topics where it's like, yeah, there's no right or wrong answer. So in your guys' opinion, then, what do you think is the sweet spot on the power scale to have the most fun?
Like a 6 or 7.
7 or 8.
7 or 8? Okay. I can dig it. Yeah, I'd say like it's like 6 because you at least want a game plan. 7 to 8 makes it faster, and also, you know, you have more interaction and just more like crazy things that can happen, right?
I think the more optimized decks you have sometimes can hurt you depending on your play group, especially if you meet randos while you're at like a card store or something like that, because sometimes you might all ask, what's your deck level at? And if you have like a bunch of optimized decks, sometimes that could hurt you because it's like, oh, okay, damn, I don't have a
Here's the thing.
cash deck.
Here's the thing with like randos, they're either 9 or 10s, or they're like 5 and 6s. Like there's no like I've not seen like the 7 or 8. Like
really?
Okay, maybe
We've seen a couple.
Okay, maybe like one of our other friends that he plays Boros. Like that's like a 7 or 8, I think.
Yeah, because he definitely has a solid game plan, and he's playing more powerful cards to help, you know, give his strategy like an edge.
But there's a lot of like randos that we've picked up where they're just doing like straight out of the box 5-color dragons.
And by randos we mean random players.
Random
Yeah,
players.
for pickup group purposes.
Yeah. But they're like playing like 4 or 5 decks, and then like we're playing like 7 or 8, and then there's also the other randoms that we pick up that they're like, oh, I turn 4 Herbert Druid, I win, and then it's like well, how do you win? And then they show, and it's like, okay, well, that was fun, thanks. Like, I don't know, if your deck is like 7 or 8, it's like you don't have like that balance. So I don't know. I'm just trying to say that like there's a lot of like casual people at like the 4 or 5, and then there's also a good amount that are at like the 9 or 10 that like feels bad when you play against them.
I think like every player should have a deck that's just jank.
Yeah.
So
that way
every
it's
tier
like,
list, pretty much.
Yeah, like every chair deck. You know,
Every chair deck.
I'm building an Agila deck right now with Snowlands because
I don't know. Snowlands are pretty. It's valuable.
Well, they're valuable, but like it's, you know, I'm building my 5-color Agila deck has 20 basic lands in it. You know, you wouldn't consider that to be, you know, a 5-color way to build a deck. You know,
What?
but it's more.
Are
of
you
like,
saying that you can't do that?
no, you can. But I'm saying
I'd be scared
I'm
to
saying
do it.
like.
Nah, man.
I'm saying it's my deck. I'm building it more to just like I'm like, you know what? I want to build a fun deck that I think could be really fun to play. You know, just pop out a 5-color deck that's just pretty average. Like nothing too like combo-y. You know, nothing that's like you haven't seen before. You know, yeah, there's some like basic infinite attacks you can do. But a lot of people know what those cards are, so when they see them come out, it's kind of like, oh, all right, I got to stop this card. And I think a lot of players should have at least like one deck that's pretty casual, especially when you're you bring a friend for the first time for Magic, and they haven't built a deck yet, so they just buy a precon, and precons are honestly kind of a flip of the coin. Some of them are good, and some of them are bad. Like, you would think a deck all about lands, Lord Windgrace Precon, would have cards that help them out.
What are you talking about? The cards have high CMCs, so that means lands matter.
Oh, I get it. So basically, the land matter part is just basically making sure you hit your land drops to play your spells.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It's just, you know, some decks are flip of the coin. You know, you got the Atraxa Precon. It's actually pretty self-efficient by itself. If you want to go that +1/+1 way, you know, it's got all the cards there for you. You know, some deck, like the mono black deck, that is a scourge of my existence.
The mono blue deck was okay. Yeah. Mono red deck was pretty good too.
Mono red is pretty good.
I think was the white one good?
Mono white is all about equipments.
Mono white?
Yeah, she's all about equipment. It's with Soren's arch nemesis.
No, I know. I'm just saying, was it good? Like on the power?
When I was playing it, if you get the ball rolling, it works. But honestly,
It's not like Duretti where it's just like
it doesn't get off as fast. It really doesn't. That's the problem with like mono white. And then like if they destroy your artifacts, a Voltron deck is not very good without
the creatures.
or
Or
the
the- or
creatures
either-
or
or the
you need
artifacts.
both halves. You really do. But back to what I was saying. So like, you guys think the sweet spot is about like a 6 or 7 ish, maybe
Yeah.
8.
6, 7, 8.
Okay,
Like-
okay.
Yeah.
Optimizing, maybe like a 6.5 to like an 8. Like just a little bit right before optimized. Because what's the goal of Magic? It's to win. But if you guys can win the game faster, that just means more games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But then some people really can't take the L very well.
I don't take the L well unless like my deck did something. If my deck didn't do something, then I'm like, well, I didn't have enough time to like be able
Oh,
to
that
do
makes
something.
sense. You
But-
want to be able to at least try to execute your game plan and felt like you were a presence in the game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That
but-
makes a lot of
You don't want
sense.
to just be that turd in the wind that just rolls.
Whoa.
Does nothing.
You mean
Is that a quote from Venom?
That is.
Oh god.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully no copyright strikes.
Oh, I was just like, that sounds really familiar. I was just like a turd in the wind. Okay. So then, where do you think our play group's power level is at? Because I think our play group's pretty healthy and we have a lot of fun. But where do you think we sit at on this power scale?
We've been slowly creeping up.
Yeah.
But do you think that we hit like a
No.
solid 8?
I think we're a 7.7.
7.7. That's a very interesting number. I was thinking about like
Because-
maybe 7.5 at tops.
Because we're starting to get more cards. Like we're starting to like I don't know like
I just bought a guy's cradle.
yeah, Gaia's Cradle's in our play group now. Wheel of Fortune is starting to is appearing here and there.
I've got a Force of Will.
Force
you
of
know.
Will has been in there for a while. Now there's like 2 players with it or 3. I'm not sure.
Man,
anymore.
I'm feeling left out because I don't got any of these cards.
Well, I was like,
I don't have it. I don't have
my Gaia's cradle is more like a pro. Like I bought
It's a tournament edition.
It's a tournament edition proxy, so it's not that.
But still,
It's still a pretty pricey card for what it was.
It's in circulation of our play group.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't mind that, so it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it's actually pretty fun that we get to play with such powerful cards and we get to actually experience Magic at its best.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying 7.7 because it's like 7.5 would be like you don't play those cards. It would be like I feel like you like the best optimized cards that you can do without like the whole like steep price or the whole value or not the value but like the whole power of the, like of certain cards.
And if you go any higher, that's when you get to those big earthquake levels, and it's just
Well, I mean, I don't
devastates
think
everything.
I don't think Earthquake or Hour of Devastation is that high of a power level scale.
No, I'm
Man,
talking about
The
real
puns,
earthquakes.
the puns are so real right now, guys.
I'm talking about those real earthquakes. We live in California, so we got those earthquakes we got to deal about.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is so basically, from what I'm getting from you guys, is that just make do what you can with your budget and just have fun with it, right? There's
Yeah.
no real wrong or right answer of how powerful you want to be, and when it comes to deck construction, just build the way you want to play, and you gotta best find the group that resonates with your play style and like your expectations, right? Kind
And-
of like how we found like each other and like just like
Yeah.
we're rocking it and then everything's going well.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, just to add on, we have a friend. He built a
Who-
the
who-
Esper commander.
Esper. It's Amanatu?
No, it's the
Varina.
the Voltron.
Zur the Enchanter.
Zur the Enchanter. He built the Zur deck, and for only like $60, and we played against it. It is honestly a really good budget Zur deck, and it does what it has. It does what it needs to do. Now there's like cards he can add in, cards he can replace,
Yeah.
but
to optimize it better.
does what it does what it needs to do. And sometimes
It
I
is
played against my
focused.
like 6-7 level deck, and sometimes even I'm like, man, like I gotta stop this Zur. So it really depends on the way you play the deck too. Like you could have all these really good cards and say your deck is at a 6, 7, 8, optimized level, but if you don't know how to play your deck,
It could be a 4 or
it could
5.
be a 4. It could
Oh.
be a junk.
Yeah.
I definitely do agree. Piloting a deck,
The pilot.
yeah, it really depends on the pilot as well, because if you can't actually sequence your cards and play and execute your strategy, then you're only as good as the duelist, right, guys?
Yeah, sometimes heart of the cards won't save you.
Oof.
But okay, so so there is no such thing as shaming a player for being too low on the power scale or shaming a player for being too high, because in reality, Magic is a game designed to be enjoyed by many people, and there's different people who have different fulfillments. They want to be at the best, the top. There's nothing wrong with being a Spike, because you want to show and prove your merit. Being a Timmy, bro, you just do you and just summon those big creatures. You want to be an awesome, crazy Johnny player who just puts together these wacky combos? Yeah, there is no wrong answer. So, do you guys have any final touches? Because, this, I think that's a take-home message is, build how you want to build, but you got to just, make sure that you're happy about it and you find a play group that's happy about, how you play too.
Be courteous to other people.
Be courteous?
Be courteous, I'd say. Depending on, the play style, play styles that you're playing with or something like that.
Oh, so are we talking about strategies here?
Well, kind of, but also just in general, just don't be like that guy that's
don't be salty.
yeah.
Well, you can be salty, but don't be salty all the time.
Yeah, don't be salty all the time.
So take it with a grain of salt. We talking about just a pinch?
Kind of, or as we say, we try to not have previous games influence other games, because that can just skew the entire
Oh yeah, that can
chemistry.
definitely ruin the mood and everything.
Yeah, so just just be a little salty, but then but also just be courteous. Don't try to encourage the salt onto people your play group, or especially randos, because then it's they're not going to come back to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
You always want those new people you meet to
Have a good time, right?
have a good time, and even if they're not new to Magic, and it's the first time you meet them, you want to build a positive experience, because that way, especially if you go to the same card store all the time,
You'll get everyone wanting to play with you.
Yeah, and if you have a bad time, just like anything in the world, gossip and rumors, spread, and if they didn't think they had a really good time with you, maybe you were too salty, or who knows, they'll tell other players that group isn't really that fun to play with, and you go to that card store and you're stuck with nobody.
Oh yeah, that's definitely, that's pretty bad. So, okay, that sounds fair. So, here's the thing though, is you said, be aware about the strategies. So, do you think strategies should be the next topic that we cover? Because I think strategy is a big part of deck construction that we haven't got a chance to cover, right, guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, strategies, proper sequencing, and plays. It's all how you
Or just game
pilot
plans.
that deck.
Yeah, game plans in general.
Okay, sounds good. Well, guys, we're going to wrap things up here, and please let us know down below what other topics that, you want us to cover, or you got any other feedback you want to give us, or even just, what did we miss that you guys want to add into the discussion. We love to have discussions and see, a community grow, because Magic's got one of the best communities, to be honest, and everyone's so friendly, everyone's super open-minded, but there are a few people out there who are kind of a little judgmental, and we're going to try to have people be a little bit more open-minded about power level and whatnot. But yes, this is Victor,
This is CJ.
And this is Mitchell.
and we're Maho Shonen signing out.
Shaka bra.
Shaka bra!